Revised development blueprint for Northeast New Territories. Fears of a manpower shortage in Hong Kong. And Mohamed Morsi's opponents celebrate after his ouster.
Good evening. The government has unveiled a revised blueprint for the redevelopment of Northeast New Territories. Officials have dropped plans to redevelop one of the 3 areas earmarked earlier. Still, many affected residents are unhappy and have vowed to step up the fight against the project. Villagers at Kwu Tung North and Fan Ling North were glued to their TV sets this afternoon to find out what's to become of their neighbourhood. Non-Indigenous residents say they're refusing any compensation offers and that they're not moving out. Spokeswoman Chuk Kwai Kwai said people living in Fan Ling North want to farm their own land and eat their own crops. She warned that if the government insists on tearing down their homes instead of developing the golf course in Fan Ling, then they might be forced to occupy it. But Hao Chi Kung, chairman of the Sheng Shui Rural Committee, who represents mainly indigenous villagers, says those who refuse to leave are simply being selfish. Originally, parts of Kwu Tung North and Fan Ling North would be redeveloped with residential and industrial areas. Ping Che Taku Ling was to get lower density developments because it's not linked to mass transport. But plans to develop Ping Che Taku Ling have been dropped and will be reassessed later. Secretary for Development Paul Chan admitted today there's still a lot of opposition from residents, even though the proposals have been revised.
We will take a proactive approach to engage them, to go see them, to explain to them the rationale behind, and to listen to their concerns, to explain to them the possible remedial measures.
Eligible households displaced by the development would get $600,000 in compensation or be relocated depending on their case. The government estimates that with the new blueprint it can provide more than 60,000 residential units in Kwu Tung North and Fan Ling North, 60% of which would be public housing. The process will start officially in the 3rd quarter of this year when the details are submitted to the Town Planning Board. The government says it will listen to people's concerns in the meantime. But the project could face problems, not only from disgruntled residents. The new towns would be developed under a public-private partnership. Sunny Zhang, head of research at property consultancy Cushman & Wakefield China, warns that involving too many private developers may result in disputes over land premiums and road access. Land rights and environmental impact may also lead to problems. According to the current timetable, the development should be finished by 2031.
Manpower in Hong Kong will peak in 5 years' time before it enters a long period of decline, the chief executive warned today. Lun Cheng-ying's comments came as the Economic Development Commission held its 2nd meeting. Jenny Lam reports.
A shortage of manpower will be a challenge for Hong Kong in a few years' time.
We are aware of the fact that statistically our manpower will peak in terms of the size of the manpower, will peak in about 5 years' time. And from there on, we shall enter a rather long period of decline.
The tourism subgroup in the Commission expects a surge in the number of visitors to Hong Kong over the next 10 years, and thus the need for more hotels and tourist destinations. Jack So, convener for the tourism subgroup, believes the number of hotel rooms needs to be double from what it is now, and more diverse tourist spots will prevent most visitors crowding into a few areas. These new spots could be at the old Kai Tak Airport and on Lantau, So said. Still, the chief executive stressed the need to strike a balance between the development of tourism and the city's capacity. He acknowledged there's a lack of capacity as well as pressure on certain parts of Hong Kong. The Commission's transport subgroup, meanwhile, suggests that Hong Kong can develop aircraft rental services once the 3rd runway at the Chek Lap Kok Airport is completed. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
Turning overseas now, Egypt's first democratically elected president was ousted by the military overnight. This comes just 1 year in office for Mohamed Morsi and follows the same kind of Arab Spring uprising that toppled former dictator Hosni Mubarak. Alan Buckner reports.
There were jubilant celebrations across Egypt by anti-Morsi demonstrators who had been protesting in the millions since the weekend. On Monday, the head of the army gave Morsi a 48-hour ultimatum to come to terms on a power-sharing arrangement with the opposition. Morsi was defiant, insisting he was democratically elected. Late yesterday, after the 48-hour deadline passed, Army General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi announced they would install a temporary civilian government, suspend Morsi's Islamic-drafted constitution, and stage new elections. Adli Mansour, the head of Egypt's Supreme Constitutional Court, was sworn in today as the country's interim president. A video of Morsi appeared briefly on social media as he denounced his removal and urged dialogue. Morsi and many of his aides are now reportedly under arrest at a presidential guard facility where he'd been living. His removal and arrest sparked violent clashes between pro- and anti-Morsi factions. More than 20 people were killed in rioting in Alexandria. The United Nations, the United States, and other world powers did not condemn Morsi's removal as a military coup, because that may trigger sanctions. In a carefully worded statement, U.S. President Barack Obama said he was deeply concerned by the military's move, and his government would assess what the actions meant for foreign aid to Egypt. Washington provides Egypt with $1.5 billion a year in military and economic aid, which is considered critical for America's national security. Under U.S. law, the government would have to suspend that aid if Morsi's ouster is deemed a coup. Alan Bookney, TVB News.
Mohamed Morsi came to power a year ago, promising to revive Egypt after the ouster of former dictator Hosni Mubarak. But critics say he simply polarized the country further. Jameson Wong takes a look at Morsi's rise and fall.
Egypt's first democratically elected leader in happier times. Just a year ago, Morsi swept to victory in the country's presidential election. Some say he was never seen as the Muslim Brotherhood's most charismatic figure, but he did have its organization's power behind him. The Islamist president had pledged to give up links with the Brotherhood, a promise his critics say he did not keep. Morsi was also accused of being a dictator. In November, he declared greater powers for himself, and he pushed ahead with a new and more Islamist constitution, which was approved in a referendum. The latest wave of anti-government protests started last weekend, marking Morsi's first year in power.
It's not cut and dried. It's not good thing, bad thing. It is a very, very complicated situation. He is democratically elected. However, he does seem to have broken a compact, if you will, with the people of Egypt.
Still, many say the ouster of a democratically elected president after just 1 year and fresh concerns about the role of the military could spell further turmoil in Egypt and the rest of the Arab world, 2 years after the Arab Spring uprising. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
Blocking airspace to the Bolivian president's plane over suspicion U.S. whistleblower Edward Snowden was on board has become one major diplomatic spat. Several Latin American heads of state have denounced the move and are encouraging Europe to free themselves from the United States.
After denying airspace to the Bolivian president's plane over fears Evo Morales was helping Snowden to flee Moscow, the leader finally arrived home. In a show of solidarity, Morales was greeted by his cabinet and a massive crowd of cheering supporters at the airport. Forced to suffer a 14-hour layover in Vienna, Morales called the situation a provocation to Latin America. He also urged European countries to free themselves from American imperialism. Bolivia's vice president said the plane drama kicked up a hornet's nest, one that has leaders of the Union of South American Nations holding an emergency meeting in Bolivia later today. Peruvian President Ollanta Humala also backs Bolivia. He said France and Portugal's denial of airspace set a grave precedent that must be explained. Outside Bolivia's embassy in Caracas, Venezuelans rallied to show their support for President Morales. Similar scenes took place in Buenos Aires, where the masses protested outside the Bolivian embassy there.
Con su avión presidencial.
Argentine President Cristina Fernandez made it clear she was disgusted with old Europe for humiliating a sister nation. Over in France, the EU Justice Chief informed the European Parliament she wants answers to the alleged U.S. data spying.
There needs to be transparency and there needs to be clarity among the negotiating partners. And this, of course, excludes spying on EU institutions.
Ecuadorian Foreign Minister Ricardo Patino couldn't agree more. He's demanding answers from the British government as to who put a hidden microphone in Ecuador's London embassy, where WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is holed up.
And when we come back, court setback for Yau Tsin Mong District Councillor. A sinkhole scare for a driver in Ohio. And Andy Murray digs deep to advance in Wimbledon.
Welcome back. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying said today anyone who wishes to donate land to provide affordable homes can work with nonprofit organizations to achieve that aim. He was referring to tycoon Lee Shao-kee's offer of land to the government, which was rejected yesterday. Executive Council convener Lam Woon Kwong also waded in, warning that such collaboration would spark controversy. Jenny Lam reports.
The chief executive today played down suggestions the government turned down Henderson Land's offer because it doesn't want to be suspected of collusion with big business. He said anyone who wants to donate land in order to provide affordable housing for young buyers can achieve that by working with non-profit organizations such as the Housing Society. The government, he added, should focus on providing public housing and home ownership scheme flats to satisfy demand. Executive Council convener Lam Woon Kwong suggested that Henderson Land boss Lee Shao-ke can build and sell affordable housing himself. But government involvement, he warned, could raise questions on, for example, why people in substandard housing aren't given priority over young buyers. He added that non-profit organizations will have much greater flexibility than the government on such projects. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
District Councillor Edward Leung has lost in his attempt to overturn an earlier court decision that invalidated the election results in his constituency. The Court of Final Appeal today rejected his case after he was found to have used other people for publicity purposes without their consent. There will now be a by-election for the Kings Park constituency represented by Leung. Jenny Lam again.
Edward Leung was left disappointed after the court ruling this morning.
I have been careless. And my assistant has been, reckless, has been so, careless for collection and submitting the consent form. But I declare that in this issue, I'm 100% honest.
The court heard that during the district council election in 2011, Leung put the names of people whom he claimed were his supporters in his campaign material without their prior consent. Leung won the Kings Park constituency in the Yau Tsin Mong district by just 2 votes. The High Court earlier annulled the election results, citing illegal behaviour. His closest rival, Lam Kin Man of the Association for Democracy and People's Livelihood, said today justice has been served. Whether it is vote rigging or breaking election rules, these are serious questions that need to be addressed, he says. 3 quarter-final appeal judges, including Chief Justice Geoffrey Ma, said today Leung lacked reason for an appeal. Ma pointed out that the case concerns fairness of an election in which all the other candidates followed the rules. Of the 58 people Leung claimed were his supporters, Only 6 had given written consent for him to state that they backed him. The judges feel that showed Leung knowingly committed the offence, and they said because he won by such a slim margin, there is little reason not to hold a by-election. Leung had continued to serve as a Yau Chin Mong district councillor pending the outcome of today's hearing. Now that the court has thrown out his appeal, there will be a by-election for the Kings Park constituency. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
The exams body and local universities have reached agreement on a new calculation system for secondary school leavers hoping to enter university. Evelina Leung tells us how it works.
The second batch of Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education examination students will get their examination results on July 15th. This year, the Hong Kong Examinations and Assessment Authority, or HKEAA, and the 8 local universities have agreed on a simpler calculation method for students seeking to enter university. For the HKDSE, the grades range from 1 to 5-star. Under the new calculation system, level 1 equals to 1 point and so on. Level 5-star will get you 6 points, and level 5-star 7 points. To get into university, students have to get a minimum of 10 points. The HKEAA stressed exam scores would not guarantee success.
Admission to universities and tertiary institutions are not totally dependent on the points gained by the individual candidates. Success for application into a program depends on many other things. For example, their performance in the interview.
Now, can candidates who have taken this exam more than once combine their previous results with this year's results to apply for university? Well, the HKEAA says this is for the universities themselves to decide. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
South Korea is offering to hold fresh talks with North Korea aimed at reopening a jointly run factory park near their border. The industrial complex in the North Korean city of Kaesong has been closed since April. The North pulled its 53,000 workers out of there to protest against military exercises held by South Korea and the United States. Today, Seoul proposed holding talks to reopen the park, which had been a centerpiece of joint projects that represented warming ties between the two rivals. There was no immediate response from Pyongyang. South Korea today expressed disappointment over comments made by Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe about his country's wartime past. Seoul was angered after Abe said in a televised debate yesterday that historians, not politicians, should judge whether Japan invaded its neighboring countries. The South Korean Foreign Ministry called Abe's awareness of history facile. Abe has repeatedly upset both China and South Korea by making remarks perceived as attempts to whitewash Japan's wartime atrocities.
Over to Belgium, where King Albert II has decided to abdicate in favor of his son. The move will take place on the country's Independence Day holiday, July 21st. Frail at 79, King Albert will be handing over the throne to his son, Crown Prince Philip, who is now 53 years old. The move will end nearly 2 decades of a reign over the country torn apart by political strife between northern Dutch-speaking Flanders and French-speaking southern Wallonia. Albert said his age and health no longer allow him to carry out his functions. Belgium has had 6 kings since it gained independence in 1830. Albert is the first to voluntarily abdicate the throne. A sinkhole in the U.S. state of Ohio swallowed an entire car while it was traveling down a street. Authorities scrambled to help the trapped driver climb out with a ladder. Driver Pamela Knox saw the vehicle in front of her start to slip into that hole until suddenly her car fell into it. Knox was rescued unhurt but was taken to a hospital as a precaution. Police believe a water main break beneath the road might have caused the sinkhole, which is estimated to be about 3 meters deep. Officials had to use a crane to hoist the car out of that gaping hole. All right, Etienne, what do you have for us in sports today?
And we'll go back to Wimbledon first. Britain's Andy Murray came back from 2 sets down to beat Spaniard Fernando Verdasco and earn a spot in the Wimbledon semi-finals. The score in the nail-biting 5th set was 7-5. Here's Jameson Wong with highlights.
This point in the fourth set ended up with both players on the turf. To match point in the fifth.
The more times you're in those positions and the more times you can come back, you understand the way you need to think and the way you need to sort of negotiate your way through the last few sets, and did a good job with that.
Murray will play 24th seed Jerzy Janowicz of Poland for a place in the final. Janowicz beat compatriot Lukasz Kubot in straight sets 5-4 and 4. The other semi will feature top seed Novak Djokovic against former U.S. Open champion Juan Martín del Potro. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
And Real Madrid star Cristiano Ronaldo has ruled out a return to the English Premiership for now. Ronaldo visited a school in Singapore this week. The 28-year-old told the kids he's focused on new challenges in Spain. Former manager Jose Mourinho has left for Chelsea, and rivals Barcelona now feature the dynamic duo of Neymar and Lionel Messi.
I really miss English football. For me, it was one of the best years in my career when I was there in Manchester United. Everyone knows that. It's the club that's still in my heart. And I really miss. But now my life is in Spain. I'm enjoyed to play there too.
And in baseball, Max Scherzer became the first pitcher in 27 years to start the season with 13 straight wins and no losses. Scherzer and the Detroit Tigers beat the Toronto Blue Jays 6-2 in Canada. In Boston, pitch hitter Johnny Gomes blasted a home run in the bottom of the ninth inning as the Red Sox defeated the San Diego Padres 2-1 at Fenway Park. Relief pitcher Koji Uehara got the win to improve his record to 2-0.
And finally, New York's Statue of Liberty will reopen later today, just in time for America's Independence Day celebration. Lady Liberty, one of the nation's most famous landmarks, was closed to tourists for more than 8 months due to damage caused by Superstorm Sandy. While the statue was left largely unscathed by the storm, $59 million worth of damage was caused by floodwaters that affected surrounding docks, buildings, walkways, and electrical systems. About 3.5 million people visit Liberty Island every year. The copper-clad statue, a gift from France to the United States, was dedicated in 1886 and declared a national monument in 1924. And that is our news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Hello everyone, it was fine and very hot today. At 5 p.m., a ridge of high pressure was bringing generally fine and very hot weather to southern China. Today's temperatures ranged from 27.8 to 32.7 degrees. And the current temperature is 29.7 degrees Celsius. A trace amount of rainfall has been recorded since midnight, and the very hot weather warning is still in force. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? Mainly fine, there will be some isolated showers tomorrow morning. Temperatures will range from 28 to 33 degrees. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 10 to 80 and the pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 12. Now, here's the latest global weather update. Showers in Taipei, cloudy in Xiamen. Sunny in Guangzhou and Macau. Sunny in Beijing, rain in Seoul. Rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Showers in Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, cloudy in Karachi. Sunny in Cairo, sunny intervals in Nairobi. Showers in Brisbane and Melbourne. Cloudy in Toronto, sunny intervals in New York. Sunny in Vancouver and San Francisco. Sunny in London and Zurich, cloudy in Paris and Frankfurt. And that's the weather. Have a great evening.